It'll fire out a turd immediately when we get out of this car, I swear.
So I started off the new year the same as last year, barely alive with a crust in my eye from the previous night's sleep that was so hard I almost didn't wake up from it. New year, same me, except I like to do more projects this year. We went for a walk at Carron Valley Reservoir. I shared photos of this in my previous video, so I won't hang about. I hadn't given the queue too much love over the past few months since buying the M10R, so I decided to take it out for a spin, show it some love. I can't justify it being a paperweight. I'm not normally one for New Year's resolutions, but this year as I struggled to stand from a sofa without losing breath, it's time to get a little healthier, so I'm making a serious effort at walking more this year. We headed to Belgrave Reservoir with Brian, Rachel and Patsy. The wind was unbearable, we got part of the way around and had to head back to the car. Rachel was almost swept away, Brian was hungover, and Marshall and Patsy rolled in shit. It wasn't a good time. The tea afterward made it better. I still needed to get my steps in, so I went for a solo speed walk later that evening. I was shooting pretty comfortably at 6400 and editing in colour. That just blows me away. Here it is, our first cemetery walk of the year. We love walking around cemeteries with the dogs, reading the graves while the dogs get their sniffs in. We see all sorts of weird and wonderful shrines. Last year I found a grave which was littered with iron brew cans. They weren't empty either, they were like proper full cans. Obviously I took a closer look. Not even the good stuff, it was all the low sugar nonsense. What a state. On the way to the cemetery I spotted some graffiti I wanted to photograph, but we couldn't stop the car and we went a different way home, so I'd have to wait till another day. That evening I took the M10R out for a walk with Brian. We went full tilt, so there's no photos except this selfie. The next morning we were up early. The sky was clear, the ground was frosty and the sun was out. It was the clearest weather I've noticed in weeks, and it made a welcome change to wake up and not immediately want to kill myself. As you'll notice, we like to get out with our dogs often, so buckle in, because unless things change rapidly you'll be seeing a lot more of them. I remember a time I used to photograph things that weren't our dogs, and now after 2 years of lockdown and not being very engaged in social circles, being around people terrifies me. All these photos are from a nature reserve near the flat. It's like just behind the airport. The dogs took a dip in the Clyde. They emerged safely, unlike the many human bodies below the surface. Check out this skull in a tree. The following day I woke up in a terrible mood and didn't even really want to walk. I took the 15mm out for a spin. We went to spot winter birds at a nearby loch. As these photos suggest, I wasn't particularly inspired. I thought about my challenge to shoot every day and sucked it up. There's no way I was going to cave 4 days in. On the drive home I remembered the graffiti from earlier in the week, so we made a little diversion. I knew as soon as I got there that the 35mm would have been better suited. I planned to return a third time, but took a photo anyway, just in case the council painted over it to meticulously restore the red brick wall to its former glory with grey paint. The following morning it was pissing it down with rain, but I was back harder than Arnold Schwarzenegger. If anyone was going to take this unremarkable photo, then it was going to be me. The 15mm the other day was far too wide, but the 35mm frames it up nicely. I do actually like this photo. We also revisited the cemetery from earlier in the week because we're dead interesting like that. It only went and snowed to around the first week off. I'm dropping a few photos here just now, but I'll be following this up with a full video entirely for this walk. It was the sort of day I've been waiting for without even realising it. What a treat.